What I really love about the way this all came together is that we have the ability to see whatever we want on the screen. And some of the things that you can see are really pretty cool. For instance, right now we have our basic, if you want to call it basic, vortex image. And one of the concepts behind MorphWiz, and one of the things that I felt strongly about, and Kevin felt strongly about, is that we should kind of tie in as many of the visual effects as possible with what's going on in the audio domain. So in this example, when I play a note, the vortex starts, it's spinning a little bit now, but as soon as I play a note, it reacts, and as I move up the vertical grid, one of the things that happens is the vortex starts to spin a little faster. You can also see the waveform in the screen. So now if I start to slide around, watch how cool the vortex gets, and all the particles and stars also start to move. So there, now it slowly comes to a stop. And the other thing that's happening is you can see the waveform in the screen. It's not just any like trippy visual, although it does look pretty cool. We spent a lot of time kind of figuring out how to make that look interesting and visually exciting. But what we did is we found some images that actually relate directly to the actual sonic waveform that you're hearing. And the basic waveforms within MorphWiz are the sine wave, the triangle wave, the sawtooth wave, and the square wave. So when you touch on the screen, you have the ability to see any of those waveforms. And you can touch anywhere. Right now my vertical is assigned to have a sine wave at the bottom, and at the top it's a square wave. But we can get anywhere in between, and that's part of the whole morphing concept. We'll get back into the waves in a little bit, but let's look at how you can take different things and put them on the screen or take them off the screen. For instance, now we have the record controls on the screen. You might want them off. So the first thing you'll do is you'll go up to the menu and you'll just slide that up, and you can go to controls. And this is where you have control of all the various things that come on your screen. Things like the recording controls. If we take them off, the next time you come out and hit close, voila, the recording controls are gone. But let's say this looks a little cluttered. You're not going to need all this when you're playing this particular piece that you're going to play or in the patch you're making. I might want to get rid of the buttons that go into the delay buffer, for instance, or maybe my magic slider. So let's go back to the menu, and here we are in the controls page. And all right, so let's say delay buttons. Let's turn them off. And you can see in the edit window, they don't completely disappear, but they get darker, so you can tell that they're off. For instance, if you wanted to get rid of the pitch buttons, what locks the pitch and makes it snap to the grid, you would hit this off button, and then you can see it's completely dark. And the next time you go to the play screen, those will be off. But let's leave the pitch buttons on, because I like those. And let's get rid of the keyboard, because we don't really need to see the keyboard. We're not planning to move that around. So you could say, I want that off. And you could even get rid of the preset selector if you wanted to, but that's kind of handy to have on. And the magic slider, well, until you're an experienced player, you might not want that on. And the menu slider, oh, you might be a lefty or a righty, I don't know, but we want to take care of you, so you hit this button and everything, all the menu items switch to the right or back. I'm a righty, so I just like to watch this go back and forth, but besides that, I like to have them on my left. So that's it. So now let's close this up. And we get a nice kind of clean screen that has everything I'm going to need to deal with when I'm playing this particular program. Now, let's go into the menu and let's look at the wave menu. This is a really, really cool little area that's very important to the way MorphWiz works. As I mentioned earlier, you have 4 basic kind of waveforms. This is the kind of sonic waveforms you deal with in subtractive synthesis. And this right now is the basis for what MorphWiz's sound is all about. You can pick whichever waveform you want in this little selector for the left waveform, or the start wave as we call it, or the end wave. And the reason we have a start wave and an end wave is because you can assign this waveform selection to your vertical grid, to the X tilt of the iPad, or to a fixed value. So what happens is, let's say you have it assigned to a vertical grid. On the bottom of the grid, it's going to start at your start wave. At the top of the grid, it's going to be your end wave. So for instance, right now, we start down here, we get a sine wave, we slide up and it morphs all the way up until your square wave is present. But we could make it go the other way around. What happens if as a start wave, we have the square wave? And at the end, that's where we put the sine wave. So now, we don't even have to close the menu. We can do it here. Well, to see the bottom of the wave, you'd have to slide down like this, yes. And then square wave going to sine wave. And that's possible, again, with the edit window open, so you never have to leave there. Right? And touch anywhere in between. But these sliders are cool as well, because you might not want to go from a pure square wave at the bottom here to a sine wave at the top. You might say, you know what, I want to go somewhere in between the square wave and the sine wave. And that's what this is about. You're setting your start value at an in-between point. You're kind of inching it forward towards your sine wave. You say, you know what, I want to go from here. And it morphs it and sets the visual and the sonic waveform accordingly. And I don't want to end up at a sine wave. I want to come back towards my square just a little bit to there. So now when you play, your full range looks more like this. Right? And so the same thing is possible to assign this to your X tilt and also to your fixed value. With fixed value, what's happening is you're getting one waveform, but the way you choose the one waveform that will be played anywhere on the screen is you have to have your start and end wave, but you're using your slider to pick the position that will be your fixed value. So you'll get one waveform, and those are the choices in the wave menu.